I'm concerned that that's not what's happened, that since you took over as director, you've cleaned house or forced out senior leaders across the Bureau and told us you wanted a $500 million budget cut for the FBI, literally an effort to defund the police. But you're requesting $500 million less. How does having fewer FBI agents...
That exchange was intense. You've got Senator Coons accusing FBI Director Patel of politicizing the Bureau, even calling his budget request an effort to defund the police. Then Patel fires back, defending his leadership and even suggesting the FBI needs more street-smart cops, not just college grads. It's rare to see this much raw tension in a Senate hearing, and this one got personal, fast.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley. Thank you, Chairman, for calling this hearing. I'm grateful we're continuing this committee's long tradition of oversight, and in particular today, oversight of the FBI. Director Patel, thank you for being here. There's a number of issues I hope that we can speak to. I want to start by reading something you said to me during your confirmation hearing under oath. I have no interest, no desire, and will not, if confirmed, go backwards. There will be no politicization at the FBI. Then you looked me in the eyes and said there will be no retribution actions taken by the FBI should I be confirmed as director. I told you that in your office. I tell you that again today. I'm concerned that that's not what's happened, that since you took over as director, you've cleaned house or forced out senior leaders across the Bureau, in particular targeting those that worked on investigations of President Trump. The former acting director has just sued you for firing him for political reasons. So did a leader in the D.C. field office. And the well-respected leader of the Salt Lake City office was pushed out last month, leaving that office shorthanded at a particularly difficult time. I'm worried that these actions compromise the Bureau's ability to keep Americans safe. Hundreds of agents have resigned. You are lowering application standards to fill vacancies. You've reassigned large numbers of agents to work on immigration and street crime, issues other law enforcement agencies can handle, perhaps more effectively with the FBI, but I'm concerned that this compromises the Bureau's ability to address national security risks, uniquely its capability. In fact, you've shut down the Office of Integrity and Compliance, which makes sure that agents act in a lawful and ethical way, and reassign staff away from domestic terrorism investigations exactly at a moment I think we are all concerned about it. I also have to ask, you came before the Appropriations Committee in May and told us you wanted a $500 million budget cut for the FBI, literally an effort to defund the police. I am grateful for the work of the men and women of the FBI. They've done great work this year in Delaware, partnering with the Dover Police Department to support human trafficking victims, partnering with the Middletown Police Department on armed robbery and carjacking. And it's urgent, I think, that we fix the direction and the prioritization within the FBI. And I wish we could focus on those efforts today. But I'm seeing an FBI leadership more focused on social media clout and on political revenge than on fighting crime. Director, have you ever ordered that an FBI employee be terminated because he or she worked on an investigation into President Trump?
Senator, thank you. One quick correction for the record. There's 280 NV investigations. I gave the incorrect number to Senator Hawley. Thank you.
Understood.
As far as a lot of your statement, I disagree with it, and I'm happy to address it. But the only way, generally speaking, an individual is terminated at the FBI is if they have violated their oath of office, violated the law, or failed to uphold the standards that we need them to have at the FBI.
So those who say that they've been fired because of working on investigations into President Trump are lying or misrepresenting?
Well, those matters are alleged in litigation, which is ongoing, so I can't comment on those specifically.
Could you comment on why you fired former acting FBI Director Driscoll?
I can't because it's ongoing litigation.
Could you say now definitively under oath that the rank and file agents who were assigned to work January 6 cases will not be terminated because that's what they were assigned to do?
I've said it before and I've said it again. Your case assignment, as I was given case assignments when I was a young prosecutor, does not dictate your career or your termination.
Thank you.
This is where the political irony hits. For years, the phrase defund the police was used against Democrats, and now Coons is flipping it back on a law enforcement leader. But Patel holds his line, emphasizing accountability and due process. The back and forth here shows two very different definitions of leadership, one rooted in symbolism, the other in internal reform.
So if hundreds of agents have retired or taken the fork in the road offer, and you have vacancies, but you're requesting $500 million less, how does having fewer FBI agents help you tackle violent crime and address our national security issues?
Just to put it in perspective, Senator, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. If we had this $500 million. We've done the math. It would take us 14 years to onboard every vacancy that's on the books currently at the FBI because we can't hire these folks and train them overnight. It's a years-long process. So we are currently focused on recruiting the best and filling the positions to the best of our needs. And we, even if we had this extra money, wouldn't be able to hire them overnight. We're looking for where the need is greatest, where in the country we need to send them, and how we can change the training requirements, which is why I'm thrilled to have police officers. They might not have a college degree, but they got the street smarts and the cop smarts to become FBI agents, and that's what we want.
Let me turn to Section 702.
Yes,
when you testified in front of the CJS subcommittee, we talked about this issue. You told me you were in favor of reauthorizing FISA Section 702 when it expires next year, so long as the reforms implemented last year, reforms like better training for agents and real consequences for inappropriate searches of Americans' communications were maintained. You also said that you had some ideas about how to make Section 702 better going forward. Can you give me an update on the FBI's implementation of these reforms and the direction you think it should go?
Absolutely. I think you're referring to the query process, and if you're not, let me know. But any instance of abuse or mistakes that were made in the query process have now been changed. It used to be you can make multiple mistakes and continue to access the query database system. I've changed that. If you make a mistake, you're immediately sidelined, a review is conducted, and if it was an actual mistake, i.e. there should have been S on the end of that name and there wasn't, then we put you back in. But we have to review those matters. So that's happening. And if there was an intentional mistake, you have no more access to the 702 query system and its database. So we've also done an audit of the entire 702 system and the query databases, and now we are nearly 100% of the audit, and I think we found one or two, I'll have to get back to you, quote-unquote mistakes within that system which are currently being reviewed.
Thank you. You had told me in May that you'd send me updated statistics about the Section 702 searches of Americans' data. I haven't received it. When will I get that?
I'll work with my team to get that to you, Senator.
And frankly, in May, when you were testifying that you were implementing these reforms, you were also closing down the Office of Internal Auditing at the FBI. Now, that was the office created in the first Trump administration to improve the Bureau's compliance with Section 702. How is that working out? How can you continue to advocate for robust civil liberty protections but shut down the office that was created to enforce those safeguards? Help me understand this.
This exchange shows a quieter tension. Less drama, more substance. Coons worries about civil liberties, while Patel insists he's cutting duplication, not accountability. It's a classic Washington debate, reform versus risk. You can sense Coons' frustration, but Patel's argument has internal logic, if you buy his premise.
Absolutely, Senator. This is a great example of sort of duplicative work. Both, there was two divisions in the FBI working on this, and all we did was the inspection division, which is the leader in this query system and this audit system, has now been given the single source mandate to conduct these. So the OIA, its elimination, is just taking folks who were working there and were experts in it and folded in under the inspection division, and then taking other folks that we didn't need because we had enough manpower and pushing them elsewhere in the FBI.
I'm concerned about the rise in threats against members of our judiciary. What are you doing with the U.S. Marshal Service to help protect our federal judges and with state and local judicial systems to help provide some of the expertise of the FBI in protecting them as well?
I share your concern, Senator. We have 35 open investigations, 17 against federal judges, and the remainder against state court judges and threats that they have received. And as you know, federally, there's a specific statute which prohibits that. So we are working up those cases and referring them to prosecution where we can meet the threshold for evidence.
In your written testimony, you referenced how counter-UAS legislation expires and we need to resolve the conflict in jurisdiction and authority. I agree, this is an urgent concern. I have heard from state and local law enforcement about it, from the folks responsible for major events, whether it's sports or concerts or public events. Given the tragic increase in political violence, I'm very concerned about the misuse of drones and the potential of there being a catastrophic event. What could we do to address this challenge?
Well, obviously, reauthorizing the capabilities that we have under the counter-UAS program. But just to highlight what the FBI is specifically doing, we've been given the mandate to work with DHS to secure not just the Club World Cup that we had, by the way, which occurred in 32 matches across the country without any significant incident, which we're proud of. And we're taking that model for the next World Cup and also the Olympics. But the reason I bring that up is because we pushed out our counter-UAS programs to address the security needs, and that's where our focus is on events like that.
Mr. Director, thank you for your testimony. I look forward to working on actually solving criminal problems and reducing the extent to which what we're going back and forth about is more political and partisan point scoring and more actually solving crimes for the American people.
What you've just witnessed was a critical moment in American oversight. Senator Chris Coons of Delaware questioning FBI Director Kash Patel during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. This exchange reveals deep tensions about the direction of the FBI under new leadership and raises fundamental questions about the balance between political accountability and law enforcement independence. Senator Coons opened with a direct challenge, reminding Director Patel of his confirmation hearing promise: there will be no politicization at the FBI, there will be no retribution actions. Yet, the senator expressed serious concerns that this promise has not been kept. The facts on the table are striking. Senior leaders across the Bureau have been forced out, with particular focus on those who worked on investigations involving President Trump. The former acting director has filed a lawsuit alleging political termination. Leaders in both the D.C. field office and Salt Lake City have been pushed out. Hundreds of agents have reportedly resigned. Director Patel's response was categorical. Terminations only occur when individuals violate their oath, break the law, or fail to meet FBI standards. He stated that those claiming political firings are lying or misrepresenting. However, he declined to comment on specific cases, citing ongoing litigation. Perhaps most surprising was the budget discussion. Senator Coons highlighted that Director Patel came before the Appropriations Committee in May requesting a $500 million budget cut for the FBI, what the senator called literally an effort to defund the police. Director Patel defended this approach by emphasizing waste elimination. Tens of millions in duplicative contracts, redundant software systems, and unnecessary workloads. He pointed to the FBI headquarters move, which he claims will save $3.5 billion for taxpayers. But here's the tension. Hundreds of agents have left, hundreds of positions are vacant, yet the budget request is lower. Director Patel explained that even with additional funding, it takes 14 years to fill current vacancies because training new agents requires a full year. His solution? Recruit differently, including police officers without college degrees who have street smarts and cop smarts. Senator Coons raised concerns about the FBI's shifting priorities. Large numbers of agents have been reassigned to immigration and street crime, areas he suggests other agencies can handle more effectively. Meanwhile, the Office of Integrity and Compliance has been shut down, and staff have been moved away from domestic terrorism investigations at what many consider a critical moment. Director Patel countered that the Office of Internal Auditing elimination was about reducing duplication, not reducing oversight. He explained that the inspection division has taken over compliance functions, consolidating expertise rather than eliminating it. On a more constructive note, both senator and director found common ground on FISA Section 702 reforms. Director Patel detailed significant changes to the query process. Agents who make mistakes are immediately sidelined pending review. Intentional violations result in permanent loss of access, and a comprehensive audit has been completed with only 1 or 2 issues found. However, Senator Coons noted an inconsistency. Advocating for civil liberty protections while closing the office created to enforce those safeguards seems contradictory. This tension between efficiency and oversight remains unresolved. The hearing also addressed emerging threats: 35 open investigations into threats against judges, 17 federal, 18 state, and urgent concerns about drone technology being misused at major events. Director Patel highlighted the FBI's successful security operation at the Club World Cup, with 32 matches across the country without significant incident. Senator Coons concluded with the pointed observation: he wants to work on actually solving criminal problems rather than political and partisan point scoring. This hearing crystallizes the central challenge facing the FBI today: how to reform an institution, eliminate waste, and restore public trust while maintaining the independence and capabilities that make it effective. Whether Director Patel's approach represents necessary reform or dangerous politicization will likely define his tenure and the future of federal law enforcement in America.